All right, welcome to the Dream Machine. I'm Mark.
I'm Ravi.
And I'm Domenic.
So Dominic's from TaxTalk, and he's going to talk.
But I'll set the first question up for Domenic, right? So, Dom, I know you've been in business for a very long time, but there would have been a dream that you would have decided that I want to get started on starting a business. And I want to understand, where was that dream? How did that inspire you to get started? And what all did you do to actually get started?
That's a really good question, Ravi, because I can't ever think, bearing in mind my profession, I'm a qualified accountant, CPA. And so you don't grow up dreaming about wanting to be an accountant. Accounting and accounting skills probably come from the fact that you're probably good at something and you then gravitated to that, and it was a good idea to be a professional in that space. So I was pretty good at numbers in secondary school, and I studied accounting at secondary school. Had the accounting influence within my family. My brother was an accountant before me, and I thought, well, okay, it's not a bad profession. It's certainly going to lead me into all the skills that I would need as a business person, so I could take those skills, knowledge, and apply them to anything that I would want to, especially if I was going to be an entrepreneur or a business person of any sort. So that was really, really good. And I thought, okay, well, it wasn't a dream, it wasn't a passion, it was just something I was really good at.
Yes.
If truth be known, I would have rather been a high-level sports person because I was playing Aussie rules football back then. And without a shadow of a doubt, I would rather have been a VFL, AFL footballer or a high-level soccer player or even a talented musician that went on tour.
Okay.
So that were my dreams. My accounting background was just my profession, and it satisfied a couple of things. You knew you were always going to make money being an accountant. But in saying that, so I came from a family background where it was traditional that if you go through the education process, there's an expectation that mum and dad, who are, I was first generation Australian, mum and dad migrated from Italy, a part of Italy called Calabria, which is in the south of Italy, and they were labourers. They just dug trenches all their lives, but they were committed to ensuring that their children were educated. And so it was an expectation that you go and get a job. I don't want you to work in a factory. I'm going to put you through boarding school, and it was boarding school at that time. And because my father wanted to be educated and never got the opportunity, his background was a family of 10 siblings, and he was the oldest boy. He had a sister that was older, and his father came to him one day at the age of 10 and said, "Look, son, sorry, you can't continue going to secondary school after elementary school because I can't afford it. If I let you go, I've got to let everybody else go. Can't afford it. You're coming to work in my biscuit making business, and we're going to walk the streets of southern Calabria and sell biscuits."
Yeah.
Anyway, so he did that for a while. He came to Australia. My dad's dream was to obviously purchase a house, start a family, feed his family, educate his children, pay off his mortgage. And that was his dream. And he did it successfully and very, very well until his last breath. He gave us the opportunity to be educated. And then it was almost like, now you do with that what you will. So I literally walked out of university. I realised it really early because there was one year in my university degree which was they call it a sandwich year or a professional year, where we went and worked for an organisation. I opted to work for Shell Company back in that day as a commercial accountant, unqualified. It was just that experience that we got before we completed our fourth year. And at that point, I realised I don't want to work for anybody.
So how old were you at that point?
I was it'll be third year accounting, so I was probably about 20.
Yeah, right.
I realised that I wouldn't be able to tolerate working in an environment where literally I'm getting told what to do every day. And maybe that was just my petulance. Maybe it was just the fact that I was single-minded. And I thank my father for that, because essentially he made us educated to make the decisions, or got us educated to make decisions that created that high level of independence, which essentially was a bit of a challenge when we came out of boarding school, because then we got into arguments with my father and my brother in particular. because my father then didn't understand why we wouldn't do what he says. And we eventually got to the point where, well, Dad, you got us educated so that we could be independent, make our own decisions, and fend for ourselves. And essentially we had to teach him that education and the ability the ability to be independent and not necessarily go your way didn't necessarily mean we didn't love you or we didn't respect you. It was the very thing that education brought, which then enabled us to achieve. So it's not about getting into the argument. So, Dad, you've done your job. Now it's our turn. And so that was a learning for him, a learning for us, and an opportunity then to move forward. And so I continued doing my university degree, and I still have my dreams of being a musician and a footballer.
It's not too late. Maybe the football.
It is still not
Maybe
clear.
the football. The muso.
Maybe the footballer. So, and I found that those passions actually found a place in my life at a very, very good space, based on where I am now. But I'd love to jam, but I've never jammed.
Really? Well, there you go.
I'd love, and it'd be really cool to just get a couple of old fashion musos and just get together and just create some music. It'd be good. But anyway, look, it's and maybe one of my ambitions, one of my passions would be, wouldn't it be great if we could create a record now with AI, because I can't really sing. With AI, I might be able to actually sound good.
There's a lot of platforms like those out there.
I know. So anyway, realizing that I didn't really want to work for myself, the only period of time that I worked for salary and wage was the first 3 months I came out of university, and I worked at a architectural firm as just a commercial accountant.
Yeah.
And those 3 months I hated with a passion. Insofar as, not because I was working for somebody else, I hated it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I worked with a group of old architects who'd all come into my room, close my door, and start smoking.
Yeah.
And I couldn't handle that. And in all that, it was like lessons learned. It was, when I say I hated things, it were the best experiences of my life, because it helped me go where I actually ended up going. So back in the day, and when I graduated, I fast-tracked becoming a tax agent through my brother-in-law, who was a tax agent, had experience. So he was able to verify and reference me. So I got my tax agent's license really early. And all you needed was a master tax guide, which is a book. Tax office provided you the stationery. You go and get your other stationery you need, and it's pen and paper. And I was just really good at calculating it all and then building relationships. So I just, early days, all I did was I'd seek temporary employment jobs that just ticked the money over, whilst I was building this relationship of building clients just to do their simple tax returns face to face. And I'd get in the car and travel their houses until it got big enough, and then it was warranted that I'd have a smallish office. And if you saw the offices that I had early days, it was like, it was almost like I was working in the Bronx. My office looked like the Bronx, but it was my office, and the people in the environment that I was working in, and the people were cool because they were just like me. They were like my parents. I was building relationships like that, and so I did that for about 5 years until such time as the business was big enough to just take me on board all on its own. I didn't have to go on contract anymore. But even through that period, even after the first year or two, and it was a bit of a digging the trenches, writing returns, filling out the information, and constantly doing the same thing. The most interesting thing about it was just the fact that I was dealing with so many unique individuals that all had
business owners, yeah?
Well, not even at that point. It was just little fish. People just needed tax returns done. And I was building relationships through that. And the uniqueness was that today I could be working with someone from India. Tomorrow it's someone from Egypt. Tomorrow it's someone from Footscray who was born here, and so on and so on. And then it was my mates that I played football with, and other people that are still clients of mine today. Anyway, so as I do, I normally explore new opportunities, new knowledge, and so on and so forth. So throughout my early days, not only was I doing tax and accounting, but I had a period where I was a finance broker as well, financial planner as well, and so on. Anyway, so I'd always had this thing in the back of my mind: how can I actually say what I want to say to more than who I'm saying it to, because it's a bit of a limited resource when there's one of you, and you can command an audience, but your audience was one at a time.
Yep.
And that in itself made it really, really difficult to leverage and become bigger unless you started to pick up more and more clients.
But even then, that's finite, right? There's only so many hours in a day and in a week.
Well, exactly. And so there were even now, even to this day, I do my 15 hours a day differently, but I would work and dig trenches like a labourer who's digging or working in a production line. I was a professional labourer, one after the other. And some days I'd do, especially during tax time, you do 20, 30 tax returns per day. Yep. So you would start first thing in the morning, half an hour turnarounds, and you're under the pump. You learn so many skills through that. But you also, in the back of your mind, saying, not that I was looking for an easier way to cheat, but there had to be an easier way. So technology came into my world really quickly. And so I was able to then turn around and not be more paper-based. It was still paper-based to an extent, but at least the processes were able to be, and the lodgement, just became a lot more easier to work with the tax office. And as you know, today it's even fairly seamless to be able to do it on many platforms. So again, it was a job, and I looked at it as saying, well, I've got a skill set. How do I monetize it?
Yep. How do you multiply it? It's like how you leverage it.
Not that I was money focused, but unfortunately in my profession, I'm judged by what I make as opposed to what I know and how I can deliver the service. And then people look upon an accountant saying, well, why should I take your advice? How many properties have you got? What car are you driving? And so on and so on. So it all became this materialistic image or impression that really was just something I was very, very uncomfortable with, and I've always been uncomfortable with. So anyway, putting that aside, I continued doing what I'm doing. We started to get bigger and better clients, but it's still the little fish. My thought was little fish will always become big fish if you feed them well. So my food was...
It's like anchovies.
Yeah. My food was almost just the way you nurture them, relationship, the trust. Trust as a feeding mechanism is significant, because the more trust they have in you, it's because of the way you deal with people. You're just feeding that confidence into the client. So, these little fish tend to become bigger and bigger fish. And there's many, many clients that started with me as an individual $35 tax return 30 years ago, even $25 tax return 30 years ago, and today are some of my biggest clients.
Yeah, and from that story, what I'm realizing, Dom, that you are basically saying that relationships are the key for building a business.
Yeah, if you don't have the skill to know what your trigger, your passion as a client, who you are as a person, what do you see? You've got to be able to see what the client sees, not make him see something that you created. So it's about conversations, questions, asking so many things about who you are. And then
Well, that's why they come to you, isn't it, as opposed to anyone else? Because they've got I've got two accountants, and I've got great relationships with both of them. Right, one of them is an non-executive chairman in my startup, right? And that's 100%. I'm never going to anyone else.
And when new clients come to me, I pretty much, the point is, why are you leaving your accountant? Because if you've got a great they would say something like, he's a great bloke. I said, why are you leaving him?
No.
Why are you leaving your accountant? Is it if you're leaving your account because the refund is not good enough? It's the wrong reason. Why? And so these are really important, because then I know what I'm walking into as well. And you're going to have fickle relationships, but it's what you want to try and avoid. Or if you build a good enough relationship with people that have been fickle in the past, well, then you've actually achieved something really amazing, because if we're not all the same as in terms of accountants, like we're not all the same as people. So if you find an accountant that just gets you and it just fuels you, and as we know, Ravi and I have worked closely together for a long period of time. And I remember when he first came, or when I first met him, where he was at then, and what he's been able to achieve and most of it's him and Monica. Most of it's him, because they're the ultimate ones who've got to take the risk. I can only just give them an idea. But if you lead by an example and they look at it and say, well, how did you do that? Okay, this is how you do it. Let's talk about your position? What do you have to be able to throw in there? And fortunately, he's been able to take risks, and sometimes calculated, sometimes he would come back to me and say, I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, the risks he takes, he's not going to kill anybody. And he's got that work ethic to be able to survive. But once he's experienced, put his foot in that water and eliminated the fear, you've just broken threshold.
Yep.
And that threshold becomes concrete. And now you think, oh, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
But let's talk about the technology aspect of it, right? You touched upon it.
Yeah.
So
25 years ago, I was sitting in financial planning seminars. I'm supposed to listen to the guy up front. But back then, I probably didn't take it as seriously as what I would have liked. And so I ticked a box off in doing CPD because I had to. But throughout the entire day, I would just be writing notes on what it would be, what could it look like if I was able to get my message to many. And I was thinking about, an email was starting to come in at that time and so on and so forth. I was just thinking about, basic newsletters, industry purposed newsletters and so on and so forth. And so I've still got these notes. They're sitting in my office and they're withered. The paper is got probably coffee stains on it, a typical script in a movie. And anyway, so I wrote all this stuff and I thought, okay, well then I parked it. I got busy in life. Went back and dug the trenches. Anyway, when I was about 42, I had had enough of digging the trenches. I looked at it and thought, I'm killing myself here. I'm working and I'm not really enjoying it. And I took the steps to potentially sell the business, package it up and sell it. I had enough. Staff, all the things we normally complain about. And it's nobody's fault other than your own. If you don't give your business an opportunity to deliver the promise that you created for the business, it's not the staff's fault, it's my fault.
Yep.
So anyway, I had a conversation with a gentleman who actually probably changed the course of everything, although I don't speak to him anymore because of trust aspects. But in saying that, I will always say, if it wasn't for him, almost saying, before you do anything, stop, assess, come to one of my workshops, you've got nothing to lose. And I thought, all right, I've got nothing to lose. I'm here now. I'm not about to sell my business tomorrow. So let's see where it goes. And apart from the fact that I, as an accountant, didn't apply the business concepts that you would normally apply and that what we would advise our clients to do, I was guilty of the very same thing my clients wouldn't do for themselves. And I was the advisor.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So I realized, hang on, that's being a poor advisor if you can't emulate what you want your clients to do. That's number one. I realized that I didn't pay enough attention to the very asset that I was building that I had. And if it failed, it was my own fault.
So that was your pivot point.
Critical.
That was a critical pivot point.
Well, what it actually did was, and I'm a fan of Simon Sinek, but at that time I didn't know that he was all about the why. But I didn't know why I was doing it. I forgot why I was doing it. And so I realized that I could essentially go out there and sell tomatoes, and so long as I was working with the people, it didn't matter what I was sold. It mattered why I was doing it. And it was the uniqueness and the wonder of the people that you work with.
So the big question for me is, so you've taken that work ethic, that professional, or that passion, right? And then you've built this platform. How did you bring? What's that? Yeah. How do you bring that bit into?
So that was one key moment when I actually was about to sell. And sometimes when you don't know what the right answer is, do nothing. Sit and wait. The answer will come to you, rather than rush into it and make the wrong decision. So if you don't know the answer, don't do anything. Just wait. Pull yourself back and let it just evolve, and the pathway will come. That was one of those moments. Through this same gentleman, I met another guy, and you've met Julio through you sat in one of his presentations, and Julio was at his peak was an excellent property advocate. And for himself personally did very well. So a lot of clients did very well. Anyway, so I met Julio and we became friends, although, sometimes I would challenge Julio on a number of things because, at the end of the day, he's an entrepreneur through and through, no attention to detail. So if he falls, he's going to go straight through his cracks. But fortunately, he's had a solid enough foundation that any alterations in markets and so on and changing conditions, he's able to survive to an extent. But still, it's a bit scary when you're at a really good level and you've got a drop. So I've been working really closely with him of recent times in particular, but for the first, say, 8 or 9 years that I knew him, it was just a relationship where he's a friend of mine. I didn't really engage too much in the business activity he was doing, although I knew he was actually exceptional at his presentations, very, very good. But I had my own beliefs in the way I'd want to do it, especially with my clients. But in essence, what he was doing was encouraging people to buy property. Yep. I just have a simpler, more humble way of doing it, so it gives his clients assurities rather than it being sensationalized. But property was going through the roof at that time, so it was a sensational conversation. Anyway, he was fairly prominent and popular in amongst many areas, and he was close to politicians in the New South Wales government. Mm-hmm. So he invited me up to where he was presenting to the New South Wales government on a particular day. And I was there eating a rubber chicken as we do, and we were being fed. It was just one of those networking meetings, although I didn't do much networking. And all of a sudden they had other people presenting, other organisations presenting, and one was Maya was presenting on their software they've designed where they could take numbers and the system would create a narrative on the numbers, which meant that the advisory time the piece that I would want to write up or type up to advise you on those numbers, it made it so much easier to shorten you. Well, it was just a lot. You were able to produce it a lot quicker. Anyway, and really I was in the dark about technology and the rapid growth and development of what was out there. But then Julio presented and he started to talk about data, started to talk about artificial intelligence, started to talk about the level where technology was, where if it was there 25 years earlier, we would have already built this software.
Yep.
So
2000?
It was pre-COVID. It was probably 5 years before COVID. We started working when?
We started working around 2018, 19.
Yeah, so I'd commenced the build of this platform 2 or 3 years earlier when I had a developer, but we had to bin him. But
we will touch that as well.
But it was a year or so beforehand. So let's say 2016, something like 2017. So and all of a sudden, here I am just eating my chicken, listening to what was there, and I was starting to get a hang of things. Then I had a flashback. I was in that financial planning seminar writing my notes, and then all of that information came back to me, and what they were saying and what I was seeing and what I was hearing and what I was remembering all came together, and I said, "You're kidding me. Now's the moment. Now's the moment. If technology is there, I want to explore what it can do."
Yeah. And I want to touch on that topic, right? Because earlier, I think I was discussing with Mark about what is the power of TaxTalk, right? As a B2C app. So the power of TaxTalk is really a business an individual can do their tax return on their own without any government help and get the best possible advice on the platform.
Yep.
And be ready for their future tax returns.
I think it's brilliant.
And at a very affordable price.
Yep.
And
the democratization of that, removing that layer.
100%. And then basically, TaxTalk is one platform that is going to give government run for its money on how they need to make their future taxation platform and where is the market going and what is the need of the market. Yeah. And I think we are the first one. I think TaxTalk is the first one to actually do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of firsts with TaxTalk, but it's like the real critical thing here is how do you create a digital platform that can resemble the relationship?
That was what I was trying to get at, because you talk about trust and relationships, right? Personal, and then now you bring this technology layer on top.
Well, Ravi and his team, we butted heads quite a bit because they just did they did it on a tech platform basis using tech thinking which makes the machine work, which is great. But what I wanted to do, and we had many conversations on this, is that I wanted to emulate a process that replicated how a client would walk in my office and they would be met and greet with warmth and welcome and coffee and whatever it is. And I wanted the system to talk to what the way I would talk to them, to discover and the underlying things that the clients knew but they didn't know. They knew it was there, but no one's prompting them. And so you compare that to some of the platforms out there that don't do anything like this, but our system will identify you, your demographic, specifically your age, where you live. It'll know all of this. It will look at your occupation. It will actually then already be ready and waiting for what you do next, because it's got a series of questions or prompts that will generally lead you. And it leads you there because you're an accountant or you're a doctor or you're a lawyer.
Yep.
So we're really personalizing and making specific. And eventually I'd like to think we can get to the stage where the interactive nature of our software with humans is almost like you're talking to a real-time person.
Real-time person.
That is, I think that's the holy grail. As a marketer, right, my first thought is, we got to tell the world.
Yep. We got to tell the world about this.
This is not a build it, they will come thing, in my opinion. Yeah. I got a feeling this is where when Ravi was telling me about it, I was like going, Jesus. And this is now that I've met you, right? It's all coming together from in my head, right? That story that you're telling, it's an amazing story. I think it was.
There's other legs to it. So there's the relationship and all that sort of stuff. But I've been in the game for a long period of time, and there are people that will pick and choose to speak to people only because those people are prepared to pay for that advice. Now, you only appreciate what you pay for.
Yeah.
But what if you're able to open the door to somebody who can't afford it, but they can? You make it compelling enough that they have to pay something, but you give them advice that changes their world.
Yep.
They'll stick with you forever.
Well,
and as they grow,
I don't want to be known for how much money I have when I die. I want to be known for how many people have made so much because of what we've done when I die. Because I can't take any of it with me. So this platform may grow into a financial Amazon. Who knows? I don't know. I don't really care about that. It will, if it's meant to be, it will be. Because as Ravi knows, we don't have any debt on it. I don't owe any money on it. My life hasn't changed with or without it, other than we're building it in the background. And if it works, wonderful. If it doesn't work, at least we've got a system that my existing clients can use, and they love it anyway. So there is a lot for us to do to get it to become a national, if not an international brand. And I know that with the drive, motivation, and the skill set around us, with the ideas and the thinking, it's like I've got the right team that can now understand me, and then I have to then relay it to them in a way where they get it. And if we never depart from building that relationship using technology, then I think we're unique in any way, and hopefully we can use that same thought and feeling with any technology that iotasol decides to build or whatever we do in the future, because ultimately the technology is not being used by technology, it's being used by people. And if it can't relate, you can bin it. It doesn't matter about the idea. It's about how can I navigate my way through this and walk away and say, geez, that was easy. And an example I have, and you've met Michael Bohaney is a fantastic friend and client of mine, and he has zero financial acumen. His wife, rest in peace, Vivian, used to do everything for him. So he came to my house and I said, he wanted to talk about his platform. I said, Michael, I just want you to have a look at mine so that you can see if you can, piggyback off the back of it and develop your own.
Yep.
And I said, okay, this is your tax situation. Go for it. And we walked through it. Took him 10, 15, 20 minutes. For a man who has no understanding at all, he walked through and he goes, I understand that so well. And for someone from my technical background in that space. I love it. This is so easy. This makes me intelligent.
Well, that's, I think, leading to the future of the platform, right? That's exactly where we want everybody in Australia to be.
Oh, look, at the end of the day, we've spoken about numbers and so on and so forth, but the education and the I think the financial intelligence, if we can improve the financial intelligence of all of those that come after us, because we are where we are now, and there'll be people that will embrace it and learn really, really quickly and love it. In any case, in our generation, but it's the younger ones. This is positioned perfectly for that flow-on effect. It's positioned perfectly for the expats, and there's millions of them overseas that have tax-related matters to attend to in Australia, and we want to be the gateway for that. We want to be the gateway for anyone that comes from overseas to say, okay, well, tax is almost like, food. We've got to deal with it every day. Who do I go to? And at an affordable price. And essentially, too, what it will potentially also provide us with is a funnel for further inquiries that go beyond the simple tax return, which is what I built my business on anyway. So everything that I'm doing with TaxTalk, it's almost like I've gone 360 degrees or 380 degrees all the way back to the start, now digital, on the same premise, taxation and lodging that return, which is the most meaningless piece of information we have to lodge the government. It's compulsory, but it's so powerful on many fronts because you can't finance without it. You'll get penalised if you don't lodge it. And there's so many other things that I can talk to, but it's all like, it's what I started. I just started my business because it was compulsory to do a tax return.
That's such a basic thing. As we went, death and tax is inevitable.
Taxes.
But I think before we actually got started, we said we will have this discussion for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think, Dom, just to tell you, we have already crossed 30 minutes.
Oh, and I've only just got started.
There's a long story to continue, but I think we have a great partnership and going forward. And I think this has been a great chat, and I think a lot of people will take a lot of inspiration and cues from this.
100%.
Oh, look, it's without your help, of course, and without your patience with me, it probably would never have eventuated as well. So from that perspective too, it's you can have an idea, but you've got to be partnered by people who understand each other and are prepared to be really, really flexible in their thinking and get it. Because sometimes it's a bit like you can be the smartest person in the room, but if it's not your wheelhouse, it's really important that you pick up from those that have got those expertise so you become better. And now their organisation is probably one of the only organisations that can do what this technology can do in Australia because of it. And it took a long time to learn it, but now it's almost like we're ready for 2025 already. We'll be ready for years to come because we've got the technology, the nous and the know-how on how to just add and improve. And these guys are surprising me with what they're doing, and I haven't even had conversations with them. So it's great that they've got initiative beyond my own thinking now. Yeah. They're more excited than me.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited.
He is.
I'm very
Talks
excited.
about, yep. Well, all right. So it's a wrap, and just stay tuned. We might have Dom back again.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories that he has to tell.
100%.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.